I have another video that's far more important to do. But I've gone so far into this clip that I just want to get it over with and do the video. And I don't mean get it over with in a negative sense. It's just the other one is more pressing. That's on my mind at this point. But I do want to play this because Representative Tim Burchett has been somewhat outspoken on this issue, and he should get credit for it, especially from the UFO community, on this idea of you can't trust the Pentagon on UFO stuff. If these guys have been hiding this information for the last 70, 80 years, why on earth would you trust this Johnny come lately? Oh, you can trust us now. We've seen the error of our ways as we create an organization that doesn't give you anything in the way that congressional oversight would have provided. Christian Gillibrand's amendment, just so we're very clear, was pretty far-reaching in what she was trying to accomplish right here. Established in the NDAA, the UAP office would be given the task of providing a full spectrum of intelligence, scientific, and technical assessments relating to UAPs, including collection and analysis of data in the central repository. The UAP office will supervise development and execution of intelligence collection and analysis regarding UAPs. You can't see that. There we are. Regarding UAPs, in order to understand the technical scientific characteristics, the UAP office will receive relevant data immediately from intelligence community agencies, establish a science plan. The UAP office will be responsible for implementing a science plan to test scientific theories related to UAP characteristics and performances, build the National Priorities Intelligence Framework. The DNI, Director of National Intelligence, will be required to consult with the Secretary of Defense to assign a level of priority within the National Intelligence Priorities Framework related to UAPs. Evaluate any links between UAPs and foreign governments or non-state actors. The UAP office will be tasked with evaluating threats that UAPs may pose to the United States. Additionally, the office will be responsible for coordinating with federal agencies, including the FAA and NASA, and international allies and partners on UAPs. Can't just be partners, it has to be a world. Think about what you're saying for the moment. If you're really believing that something else is coming from this planet to engage humanity, what does it mean to just work with NATO nations in your response to it? It doesn't entirely make sense. You're dealing with it as a world. This idea of partitioning the world like that way. I mean, think about what that means for the moment. Do you really want a situation where one country thinks you're aligning with something else off planet? And for that matter, do you really want a situation where one country is aligning with something off planet? That is just, for the sake of humanity, I hope these people aren't that craven. And I know as I say that, I cringe inside. Report to Congress. The UAP office will be required to provide unclassified annual reports to Congress and classified semi-annual briefings on intelligence analysis, reported incidents, health-related effects, the role of foreign governments, and nuclear security. That's an interesting one. The amendment is co-sponsored by the Senate by Senator Rubio, Graham, Heinrich, and Blunt. The reason why the nuclear security thing becomes an issue is because that means that they're accepting the reports that came from people like Robert Salas and some of these other people that were at the nuclear facilities when craft appeared in the sky and all of those facilities shut down. And understand how weird that is. Each of these things are on a different power source. The entire point of those facilities is if something impacts one, the other ones can still respond. It is the nuclear deterrent, after all. This was shut down and did it in no time. And all of them were bewildered by this. And apparently this didn't just happen at one facility. It happened at multiple facilities where the nuclear missiles were shut down. And so the fact that Elizondo basically says, yes, that's true. Had him on the show, interviewed him, he said that's true. And the fact they're putting this in their document for the NDAA, it gets across that this is something that they believe to be true. All right. The Pentagon comes and says, well, you can trust us now. You can trust us now. Now, my question is, has the Pentagon usurped what they put in this NDAA? Because the way that Representative Burchett is talking, it sounds like they did. I can't be sure about that. I don't know the answer to that. I've been looking for it, and I don't know the answer. You also had this document recently come out. Anomalous acute and subacute field effects of human biological tissues. I went through this document already. I just go a few points. It lists injuries such as hearing and burn injuries and radiation damage to the brain and are able to impact people's nerves. Quote, sufficient accidents have been accurately reported and medical data acquired as to support a hypothesis that some advanced systems are already deployed and opaque the full U.S. understanding, the report reads. It goes on, the medical analysis will not require the invention of an alternate biophysics use of, to us, unconventional and advanced systems. That is a weirdly worded statement, and I gotta feel like they just got that wrong. But either way, something needs to be created to help us basically understand this. We don't get it. The report added and said 42 cases from medical files and 300 similar unpublished cases where humans have been injured but after anomalous encounters. Again, that's not their feelings. That's not their feelings. That's not their beliefs. Hope you understand what I'm saying. This is not, I feel this way about this. It's not that. It's not, I believe this. It's not that. It's not that. It's, we have 42 kid data that has been medically researched that lets us know this is true. In addition to the 42, we have 300 other cases that, again, has enough information associated with it to let us know this is true. That's what I mean. It's not their feelings. It's what they have. Right here, in a statement bound to excite UFO hunters around the world, the report says, quote, classified information exists that is highly pertinent to subject and to study. Only a small part of the classified literature has been released. All right. Now, if you're a Congress member, what do you say at this moment? What do you say at this moment? This document has come out. And with this document coming out, you basically had these guys saying, look, there is more data that is available, and not just more data is available, the data that we were able to get our hands on, what we were able to access, gets across that there is something to this. Not just something to this. We need to be paying more attention to it. Or if you're a Congress member and you hear something like that, your mouth, A, should hit the floor. B, your first thing should be, I want to know, what are they hiding? Now, the fact that Kristen Gillibrand, Rubio, Gallego, many of these people basically were trying to push for Congress to get oversight, and they put that within the NDAA. Well, what does it mean that the Pentagon has started their own office on this very specific issue? And does that undercut, subvert, or for that matter, even replace the office and what they put into the National Defense Authorization Act? I don't have an answer to that question. This is Tim Burchett. He's on the floor of Congress, and he has some serious feelings about UFO secrecy and this idea of the Pentagon basically keeping these files. And he gets across his disdain for what he considers this kind of military complex, especially around this notion of UAPs. This is Tim Burchett.
Summer's UFO report, Mr. Speaker, from the Director of National Intelligence was bogus. The report raised more questions than answers about unidentified objects in the skies. It stunk of a government cover-up, Mr. Speaker. Now the Pentagon is starting a new office to collect information on these unidentified objects. The office is called the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group. I don't know where they came up with that name. I'm sure they paid somebody a lot of money to come up with that. I do not trust this new office, Mr. Speaker. I don't think it'll be transparent with lawmakers or the public about its findings. This is a national security issue. Congress needs to know what is going on so we can respond accordingly. Today, I'm requesting the leaders of this new office bring members of Congress on their bring them in on their UFO findings. This is a matter of great public interest and has been for a very long time to a lot of Americans. Our government should not hide the truth from us for another second. If this new office is to be held accountable, our country will get more reports like the one that came out last summer, or worse, they will be silent and hope we all just forget about the phenomena. We do not need to fear these airborne and unidentified objects. They would have shown themselves to be dangerous a long time ago by now if they were a threat. Our citizens and country can handle the truth, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the remainder of my time.
I love that he says that while simultaneously not knowing what the truth is. I love that. Whatever it is, we can handle it. It puts me in mind of the Picard thing. My co-host, Farron, she always jokes me. Fair and Balanced, by the way. She has her show. She does shows, apparently, all the time. But, and I think it's Fair and Balanced on YouTube. I have a Star Trek reference for everything, right? There is an episode where Picard is dealing with Q. And if you want to think of Q as the ultimate Pluto. He's the unknown. He's this entity, this godlike entity. He's not a god. He just has absolute control of space, matter, and time. But he would tell you he's not a god. He's just a god to us. But in this very specific case, he's engaging Picard. Picard tells him, look, whatever's out there, we can handle it. We're humanity. We can do this. And at this point, humanity had been pretty triumphant, right? I mean, they have this kind of galaxy, this casino in space. That is like this little community and little city in space. Their ships are better than many of the other people they're competing with in the Alpha Quadrant. And he's dealing with this godlike entity showing radical confidence in that moment with this unknown entity. It's amazing hubris. I love it. It's the greatest thing ever. Q introduces him to the Borg, and the Borg literally carves up the ship and nearly kills everybody on board the ship. Picard nearly gets on his knees to beg Q to save his ass. This is a fantastic episode. When he does save his ass, the various people that are lost, but Q is like, look, you're going to get your nose bloodied, right? Like, you decided to come out here. You thought you were a badass. That species basically nearly annihilated you. You had to beg me to save your ass. My point is, he has no idea what's in that black box. And he has no idea what is on the other side of that. I mean, if you and I are having a conversation and I'm telling you, hey, I've done something bad. Are you really thinking in the same way that I'm thinking? If I'm saying, hey, there's a dead hooker in the trunk, I would wager to you dollars to donuts. You would have never thought that it was going to be that bad. I'm not saying that the UFO is a dead hooker in the trunk. I'm not saying that. I am saying that that is a pretty bold statement, full of hubris, to be like, we can handle whatever it is. We can handle whatever it is. We can't even make a choice on gay bathrooms or whether trans athletes should compete with people who are basically biological females. But yeah, sure, we can totally handle the UFO thing. Look, I don't know. I mean, to me, this issue is going to handle us or we're going to handle it. And it is going on whether we know it or not. It's going on whether we know it or not. My reasoning for saying, yeah, open the books, let the public knows. It's not because I think that we can handle it or not handle it. I guess for me, reality is what reality is. If there is something there, then yeah, even for us to, let's say, grapple with it, you have to at some point acknowledge its existence. And I do think having this kind of perspective that goes beyond this planet or us being competitive with one another continuously on some level may diminish if we have this idea of humanity as one. That's a thought anyway. Whether that's accurate, who knows? I could be entirely wrong. Just because you give people information doesn't necessarily mean they use it for the best of cases. The world could go into a dumpster fire. The people in the Pentagon could have been entirely right to not necessarily say anything about it. Who the hell knows? But just on thinking on that last point, you're stuck with whatever you get. It's not a video game. This is not a situation where your reality is a funhouse. Your reality is somewhat of a logical continuation of cause and effect. Some of those things you can predict, some of those things you can't. One of the rule sets, however, is whatever happens, happens. You're stuck with it. Whether it's the Nazis, whether it's Iraq War, whether it's the Ukraine invade, you're stuck with it. The reality, for the most part, holds those things in. So whatever happens on this front, and I think that's where this big question mark comes in. Whatever happens, however the world accommodates that information is how the world accommodates that information. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And so if you're one of those people that is commissioned with a certain responsibility of getting this out to the public, how do you behave? And do you behave in ways that are somewhat more gregarious and more aggressive? Or is it a slow process where you can evaluate as you move forward on how the public is accommodating the information that you're putting out? And at times, there are fits and starts. There are times where they would put a little bit out, take it back. The issue with the videos, though, is I'm not quite sure you can take that back. And from the standpoint of the ODNI report that came out, I have a hard time seeing how you take that back. Either way, you're stuck with whatever you get. And if you knew that, this feels like a game being run or a play being run, where the goal is, okay, we need to accommodate or get the public with a particular mindset in regards to a larger context of events. And we need to do it slowly. And so, yeah, you're going to have a report. You're going to have coming out somebody like Tim Burchett saying, hey, we need more information on that. You're going to get people shaking their fists saying the Pentagon is lying. You're going to get either the Pentagon or coming out of these new offices creating their reports. I guess my point is it's probably going to be a slow process just because of the ramifications if it goes wrong. Could be wrong. Who knows? I'm going to say like. I'm going to say share. I am going to say subscribe, and I'll see you guys in like 5 minutes. Back in a moment. Get to the main story.